Rumors are circulating that the Chicago Bulls might be ready to enter their rebuild phase. We've heard names like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan being tossed around, but one name that maybe we haven't heard as much as the others that could be a great fit on a bunch of teams, including the Boston Celtics, is veteran guard Alex Caruso. Could he be a great fit in Boston? Well, with Marcus Smart being shipped out, Malcolm Brogdon having lots of injury troubles, Alex Caruso could be that perfect fit right there next to Derrick White at the guard position. So in this video, I'll be discussing whether or not the Boston Celtics could trade for Alex Caruso. Now, before I get into this, a quick reminder to hit like and subscribe to the channel. This is your #1 hub for Boston Celtics news on the daily, so hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't regret it. Let's take a little look into Alex Caruso's stats. So last season, Alex Caruso in 67 games, starting just over 30 of them, put up 5.6 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.9 assists, but that's not all. You also see that he was a 2022-23 all-defensive team member. Alex Caruso was straight up one of the best defenders in the NBA, period, but especially at the guard position. Some people having him right up there at the top, alongside other guys like maybe Marcus Smart and Derrick White. So right away, that defensive pedigree coming to Boston, we're no strangers to that. Like I said, Marcus Smart was that. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year. Unfortunately, he's gone now, but Malcolm Brogdon's a plus defender, and Derrick White proved himself as one of the best defending guards in the league as well. So could the Boston Celtics continue this trend of defensive guards and go after Alex Caruso? Well, one website, Clutch Points, seems to think so. They said that Alex Caruso could be traded for a package centered around Payton Pritchard. They say there have been rumblings that Zach LaVine's being available in trade talks. There's a plausible chance the Bulls may begin the rebuilding phase. DeRozan will be available in the market, but the best fit for the Boston Celtics is the Bulls' defensive stopper and Swiss Army knife, Alex Caruso. And they go on to say how the Celtics already have the nucleus of the roster set, but Caruso is the perfect piece that will complete the puzzle. And like me, I was one of these people saying that Boston should go after Alex Caruso should he become available. But the thing is, the Chicago Bulls kind of said, nah, we don't really want to make him available, right? We're still fighting for the playoffs, and they ended up making the play-in. And, fair enough, right? You don't want to just blow up in the middle of a season when you still have guys like DeRozan, LaVine, Vucevic, stuff like that, who you want to give minutes, you want to give a chance to win. But if Chicago decides to flip and head into the rebuild phase, Alex Caruso is a fairly valuable asset for them to trade away. They might be able to get something decent for him. Now here's the question. Would it just be Payton Pritchard? No, that's not the case. We like to think Payton Pritchard is a young guard, but he's over 25 years old, I believe. Like, he's not super, super young, and they would need to do something else as well. Now, here's the thing, though. There were some mock trades last year for Alex Caruso, specifically some centered around the Dallas Mavericks, if you guys remember, and those involved the Mavericks trading what would end up being about the 10th overall pick and Reggie Bullock for Alex Caruso. Now, could Boston offer something similar? Well, maybe Payton Pritchard fills in a nice need for the Bulls, maybe, maybe not. But the Celtics, the good thing about them is that, us as the Celtics fans, we should be happy because the Celtics have a plethora of second-round picks. Like, there are tons and tons of second-round picks to throw around. And if you look just back to last year, how many trades at the deadline did you see have, 4 second-round picks, 5 second-round picks, things like that for players? Now, I don't know if 4 second-round picks is going to move the needle for Caruso. Maybe the Bulls will definitely search a first-round pick. But the Celtics also got one of those in the trade, bringing Kristaps Porzingis over. They got a 2024 first from the Memphis Grizzlies. So could that first-round pick be involved for Alex Caruso? We still have our own pick, so that might not bother me, right? So there are definitely ideas for the Boston Celtics to trade for Caruso. Now let's talk about fit. And not just fit on the roster, but fit salary-wise, right? He's not on an insane contract. He's only making $9.5 million next year and $9.9 partially guaranteed the year after. And this contract just is for the next 2 years, brings him to the age of 30 into free agency. But when you think about it, that's really not that bad. For an all-defensive guard, that is honestly a bit of a steal. No, Alex Caruso's not going to bring you elite offensive game, right? He's a career 37-ish% three-point shooter, which is about league average, maybe a little bit below, and he's not the best playmaker in the world, but what he does do is he gets a bit chippy, he drives into the lane, he's able to find his open teammates at a decent clip, right? He kind of plays a similar offensive game at times to Derrick White, of course, Derrick White being quite a bit better offensively, at least at getting his shot off and maybe knocking down some more open shots, but Caruso is not necessarily a negative, right? You're never that upset with Alex Caruso offensively on the floor, and especially with what he brings back defensively, it's just always worth having him on the floor, right? Can you imagine a backcourt duo of Alex Caruso and Derrick White? Or even if Derrick White starts and Alex Caruso is your super six man, which he's played for most of his career. Don't forget, he was a bench player on a championship team for the LA Lakers. Like, this guy knows how to win, right? Alex Caruso really, really knows how to win. And there were some quotes showing that, right? Like talking about, this was last year when he got injured for the Bulls. They said, this is the stuff that brings teams together and matters when it comes to crunch time during the postseason. Caruso has always and always will be a team first player, and he's the exact same way off the court. He respects his teammates and coaches, he sticks up for them and shouts them out, and he knows what it takes to be a contender in this league. So not only is he an all-defensive player on a sub-$10 million contract, as the cap's just going to keep going up and up over the next 2 years, not only does he fill a need for Boston, at least for half this season where Brogdon's probably going to be injured, he's also an amazing guy, an amazing teammate. So it feels like if this trade could be possible, it might be worth pursuing. Now, I know the cap is a little bit weird. There might have to be some salary matching, but all the same, I think it might be worth a look. Now, let's take a look at the roster fit specifically. So on Boston, right, you take a look at their guard depth especially, and there is a bit of an issue. We're not going to talk about the SF and PF depth because we all know that Jaylen Brown, Jayson, Tatum, and Kristaps, they can all be shifted up a position. Brown can easily play the SF, and if you really need him to the PF, but Tatum is almost more of a PF at times. It's just now you have Kristaps as well, who's going to play the 4 alongside Horford and Robert Williams, who are going to eat up the minutes at the 5. And there's also Jordan Walsh, who we'll definitely have a video on Jordan Walsh coming soon. Right now he's slotted in as the 4th string small forward behind Sam Hauser and, of course, Jaylen Brown playing his secondary. But my guess is by the time the season's over, he might just straight up be that backup 3 or maybe even 4. But look at the point guard depth. Derrick White, Payton, Pritchard, Malcolm Brogdon. I know Brogdon's a bit more of a 2, but that guard depth, especially with Brogdon's injury history, is really not great. It basically just leaves you with White and Pritchard, unless you really, really rely on Dalano Banton, which is probably not the best idea. I mean, he's cool. He's like a 6'9" point guard. It's kind of neat, but he's not necessarily that needle mover. But someone like Caruso really might be. Having a playoff rotation where that's your starting 5 and you have Caruso and Brogdon off the bench, Brogdon who's able to go out and put up 15 a game off the bench, a guy who averaged 10 assists in a playoff series with Indiana, and Alex Caruso right next to him who will lock down the other team's best guard, it would just be absolutely killer. And again, it's not at an insane price tag. Now, I'm not saying it'd be easy to make this cap work, but it could be possible and might be worth looking at. And why would Chicago do this trade, though, you might be asking, right? I mean, if they're going into the rebuild, yeah, sure. I mean, maybe they would trade Caruso, but there's a couple things I wanted to mention. Just take a look at Chicago's depth chart. Like right now, they have Alex Caruso slotted in to be their starting point guard next season, but realistically, things could change. Chicago has a lot of young players, and just this offseason, they signed Ayo Dosunmu, who is now slotted in as their 3rd string point guard. They signed him to a pretty hefty 3-year extension, and Kobe White was also signed to an extension. He has played a good amount of point guard for them as well. Not to mention, they went out and signed Jevon Carter, free agent, who used to be a backup guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. So right now, they actually have a lot of depth at the 1 and 2. Just look at that. It's Jevon Carter, Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White everywhere. But you just have Alex Caruso there at the starting point guard. So not only if they enter a rebuild could they say, well, you know what, Caruso, other teams may want you. It actually might make more sense for them to give more run to their young guys in Dosunmu and Kobe White to get them even a bit more experience. More so Dosunmu. Kobe White, we kind of know what he is at this point. But Jevon Carter can always be a very solid backup guard or a starter in the interim if you need him to be. Right on a rebuilding team, someone like Jevon Carter is an amazing mentor and just an awesome veteran starting PG to help everyone along. So it makes sense for the Boston Celtics if they can make the money work. That's something I didn't really dive into in this video for obvious reasons, but it could be possible. And for the Chicago Bulls, it'd give their young guys, especially someone like Ayo Dosunmu, the chance to really prove himself at the NBA level, show why that extension is worth it, and to have him maybe be your point guard of the future. I know a lot of Bulls fans are very high on Dosunmu, and if they really do go into this rebuild, Alex Caruso could be a great trade target for a lot of teams, but especially for the Boston Celtics. That'll do it for this edition of Celtics Digest. If you enjoyed, like I asked, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're heading for 100 subs now. We really appreciate all the support you guys have been showing on these first few videos, and we hope it continues long into the future. I've been Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next one.